Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like on this video, and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. Now, let's get into the story. In September of 2016, 34-year-old freelance photographer Michael Turner vanished in one of the most isolated corners of the Pacific Northwest. His disappearance might have joined the long list of missing persons in America's wilderness. Another tragic story of someone underestimating the forest, if not for one chilling detail. Investigators later recovered his cameras. And on those devices were not only his last photographs, but also a video recording that seemed to capture the moments leading up to his death. Michael's passion for photography began when he was just a teenager. Growing up in Portland, Oregon, he was known as the quiet boy with a camera around his neck. While other kids spent weekends at malls or sports fields, Michael wandered alleys and empty warehouses, searching for forgotten corners to document. His early work was striking. Black and white images of peeling paint, rusting cars, and the shadows of trees stretching across deserted streets. Teachers said his photographs carried a maturity beyond his years, a way of seeing beauty where others saw only neglect. After college, Michael struggled to make ends meet as an artist. He took wedding gigs, catalog shoots, anything that paid the bills, but he always returned to the images that drew him in: loneliness, desolation, and landscapes that made viewers uneasy. His blog, Turner's Lens, gained a modest following. Strangers online described his work as haunting, liminal, and the kind of beauty that makes you feel cold. Michael leaned into that reputation. He once wrote, "I don't want to take pretty pictures. I want to take true ones, and sometimes truth is terrifying." Friends and family often worried about his obsession. Michael wasn't reckless in the usual sense. He didn't chase storms or climb cliffs for dramatic shots, but he sought isolation. He went out alone, vanishing for days into woods, swamps, abandoned buildings, always chasing that elusive truth. His sister Emily, to whom he was closest, begged him to bring a partner or at least a GPS beacon. "You disappear into the dark like it's your second home," she told him once. He laughed it off. The dark has better stories than the light. By late 2016, Michael had set his sights on Ravens Valley, an area rarely mentioned even in local hiking circles. Officially, it was part of a vast national park. Unofficially, it was a place avoided. Hunters whispered that animals wouldn't cross the valley. Campers spoke of hearing drums or seeing lights in the fog. Compasses spun wildly. Radios failed, and silence settled so heavy it made people turn back. The land carried stories older than settlers. Native tribes once called it forbidden ground, a place where the veil between the living and the dead thinned. To Michael, that was irresistible. In August, he told Emily about his plan. She pleaded with him not to go. "If people who live there won't step inside, why would you?" He shrugged. "Because their fear is the photograph. I want to capture what they won't." On September 10th, he posted what would be his last entry on Turner's Lens. "Headed to Ravens Valley. Most people don't even know it exists. That's why I have to go. If there's nothing, then at least I'll prove the silence. But if there is something, maybe the lens can finally tell a story no one else dares to." 2 days later, Michael checked into a small roadside motel near the park boundary. The manager, a woman in her 60s, remembered him clearly. "He had 2 cameras strapped to him at all times," she said. "Polite, but distracted. Kept pacing like he couldn't wait to leave." She claimed he asked her directly if she believed in the stories about Ravens Valley. When she said yes, he only smiled and replied, "Perfect." The morning of September 12th, Michael packed his gear: a standard DSLR with multiple lenses, a compact camcorder he used for behind-the-scenes footage, food, water, a tent, and a field journal. The motel's front desk clerk watched him walk. Out at dawn, alone, with his camera raised as if even the first light on the treetops demanded to be captured. That was the last time anyone saw him alive. When Michael failed to check out of the motel on the 15th, Emily called the sheriff's office. A search team was dispatched. They combed the trails, found evidence of a camp near the valley's edge, but no sign of Michael himself. Days passed. Weeks. Hope faded. Then, in early October, heavy rainfall triggered a small landslide near a stream in Ravens Valley. Among the debris, searchers discovered a battered backpack half buried in mud. Inside were Michael's belongings: a waterlogged journal, some food wrappers, his still camera with 2 intact memory cards, and the camcorder, its casing cracked but recoverable. What they saw on those devices changed the story forever. Ewan. The Ewe. Photographs began typically. Mist curling through the trees, deer startled mid-step, the shimmer of light on wet leaves. But as the sequence continued, the images grew darker, stranger, blurry shapes between trees, pairs of eyes reflecting from the undergrowth. The final photograph was of Michael himself, caught in a reflection on the camcorder lens. His face, pale, mouth open in a silent scream. And then there was the video. Investigators never released the full footage, but those who reviewed it described it as disturbing, unlike anything seen in a missing persons case. What the camera recorded seemed to capture not only Michael's fear, but also something or someone pursuing him. Michael Turner had gone to Ravens Valley to find truth in the darkness. What he found instead was death. And the most chilling part was this: he filmed it happening. When investigators recovered Michael Turner's camera, the first memory card revealed what looked like a familiar hiking trip. The early photographs showed the valley as if it were any other stretch of wilderness, majestic, untouched, eerie only in its isolation. But in hindsight, even those opening frames carried a weight that would only grow heavier. The first images were almost tranquil. Trees rising like pillars into gray skies, mist curling between their trunks, a single hawk frozen mid-flight. Michael had always had a talent for turning ordinary landscapes into something otherworldly, and Ravens Valley gave him endless material. His notes from the first day were filled with excitement. Forest is endless, air thicker here, silence, deeper. Every sound seems swallowed before it reaches your ears. Beautiful and unsettling all at once. He pitched his tent near a creek, photographing the way the water reflected the pale light. His journal described frogs, insects, even the tracks of a deer. Nothing unusual, nothing threatening. If the valley was cursed, as locals claimed, Michael had not yet felt it. But on the second day, the photographs changed. One image showed a clearing with stones arranged in a loose circle. At first glance, it looked natural, rocks scattered by erosion. But the closer you looked, the more deliberate the placement seemed, as if hands had arranged them long ago. In his notes, Michael wrote, "Circle in the clearing. Too precise. To be random. No signs of fire, but ground feels scorched. Compasses spin here. Batteries drain faster. Strange." Another photograph captured the outline of something in the mist, an elongated shape between trees. It could have been a branch or the shadow of an animal, but the blur gave it a distinctly human form. Michael didn't dismiss it. His journal scrawl beneath the image read, "Saw figure. Tall. Not moving. Gone when I looked back. Felt watched all day." The camcorder footage reinforced his unease. Investigators described the clips as mundane at first, but increasingly bizarre. The early tapes showed him speaking to the camera, smiling faintly, describing his journey. "Day 1, he said in the first clip. Ravens Valley. Locals told me not to come. They said nothing grows here except silence. But look at it. It's alive. I'll prove it." He turned the camera toward the trees, capturing the vastness around him. By day 2, his tone had shifted. "Something's off," he admitted on camera. "The forest feels wrong. Too quiet at times, then suddenly too loud. Last night, I woke up certain someone was walking outside the tent. But when I looked, nothing. Just fog. He paused, breathing heavily before whispering, "I'm not alone here." The photographs from that night showed beams of light cutting through the darkness, his flashlight reflecting against something metallic, though no source was visible in the clearing. Another image, blurred and shaky, appeared to capture two small glowing orbs in the distance. Eyes, perhaps. His notes grew frantic. Whistling at night. Not wind, patterned. 3 notes, pause, 3 notes again. Heard footsteps circling tent. No tracks in the morning. Can't sleep. Camera battery drains too quickly. Replaced 3 times. On the 3rd day, Michael's camera caught something undeniable. A photograph, taken at dawn, showed a series of wooden structures between the trees. Crude frames like crosses lashed together with rope or vines. Hanging from one was what looked like a bundle of feathers and bone. Another structure appeared to hold a torn scrap of fabric, fluttering in the mist. His journal beneath it read, "Not natural, not old either. Who built these? Why here?" The camcorder footage from that morning was shaky, his voice low. "I found something," he said, panning across the clearing. The wooden structures filled, the frame eerie in their simplicity. These weren't in any guidebook. These aren't for decoration. They look ceremonial. He swallowed audibly before whispering, "I think someone still comes here." By that afternoon, Michael was no longer documenting beauty. He was documenting fear. One photograph showed a tree with carvings etched into the bark. Spirals, lines, crude figures of human forms with elongated heads. Another image captured what seemed like a handprint smeared in something dark against a stone. In his notes, the handwriting shook. Symbols everywhere, some fresh. Markings looked like warnings. Like boundaries, but I crossed them already. The final photographs on the card grew increasingly abstract. Blurred shots of the forest as if taken in haste, tilted frames showing branches above him, his own shadow stretching long against the ground. The last image was a close-up of his own eye reflected in the camcorder lens, wide and terrified. The journal entries from that same night offered the most chilling detail. Voices outside tent. Not English. Not any language I know. Low chanting. Rhythmic. Circle around me. Too afraid to open tent. If they want me, they already know I'm here. At this point, investigators believe Michael stopped seeing the valley as a place to capture beauty and began to realize it was a trap. His camera had recorded not only the landscape, but something else moving within it. Something watching. Something waiting. The photographs ended abruptly the following morning. His notes stopped mid-sentence. "If I can make it out..." The cube ink trailed off into a jagged line. When investigators pieced together the sequence, the story was clear. Michael Turner had entered Ravens Valley with the intention of documenting myth. Instead, his camera began documenting his unraveling. And the most chilling part was that the camcorder, despite its cracked casing, still held more. Much more. The footage would later reveal what happened after the photograph stopped. When investigators first viewed the footage from Michael Turner's camcorder, several refused to watch it a second time. One deputy described it simply. "It's not just a man dying. It's a man realizing he's going to die and choosing to keep filming anyway." The first clip begins with Michael inside his tent. The camera is angled awkwardly, set on the ground, recording him in half-darkness. His face is pale, eyes wide, whispering as though afraid to be heard. "It's 3 in the morning," he says. "They're back. I hear them outside again. The whistling, the voices. They don't sleep. I don't think they ever sleep." His breathing grows erratic. "If I make it out, someone needs to see this. Someone needs to know." The camera tilts as he grabs it, crawling out of the tent. The night is thick with fog, the beam of his flashlight slicing through it. For several minutes, the recording shows only trees and mist. Then, movement. A figure flashes between trunks, too tall, too fast to be an animal. Michael gasps audibly. "There," he whispers. "I saw it. I know I saw it." He begins to walk, camera shaking violently as he scans the forest. The audio picks up faint sounds. Low murmurs, a steady rhythm like chanting, and then the unmistakable sound of a flute playing 3 high notes, followed by silence. Michael freezes. "They know where I am," he whispers. The next 30 minutes of footage are chaotic. He runs through the forest, panting, stumbling, the camera jerking wildly. Branches slash across the lens. Mud splatters the frame. Several times he swings the camera behind him, capturing nothing but shadows. But once, just once, a shape lingers at the edge of the light. A pale face painted with black lines, eyes reflecting unnaturally. It disappears the moment the beam shifts. Michael collapses near a creek, gasping for air. He sets the camera down, pointing it at himself. His face is streaked with sweat and mud, his voice trembling. "I can't get out. Every path leads back here. I've been walking in circles. They're hurting me, playing with me. I don't know how much longer He stops suddenly, looking off camera. A sound echoes faintly. Footsteps. Dozens of them closing in. He snatches the camera and runs again. The next clip jumps ahead. Timestamp suggests the battery drained and he replaced it. The footage resumes at dawn. Michael is perched in the branches of a tree, camera angled downward. Below him, shapes move in the fog. Figures, human in outline but wrong in their movements, glide through the clearing. Some crouch, some crawl, their bodies painted in black and white patterns. One tilts its head upward as if sniffing the air. Michael holds his breath, whispering, "They're searching. They know I climbed." Minutes pass in silence. Then, from somewhere unseen, the flute begins again. 3 notes. Pause. 3 notes. The figures stop moving, turning in unison toward the sound. Slowly, they vanish into the mist, leaving the clearing empty. Michael exhales shakily. "They're not gone," he whispers. "They never leave. They're just waiting." By the 4th day, the footage shows his mind beginning to unravel. He speaks less coherently, muttering about circles, about boundaries. "The carvings," he whispers, panning across tree trunks etched with spirals. "They mean trapped. I walked past the same one 4 times. It's a cage. The whole valley is a cage." That night, he sets the camera down inside the tent, recording himself sitting with knees pulled to his chest. His face is gaunt, eyes bloodshot. "If anyone finds this," he says, voice breaking, "tell Emily I'm sorry. Tell her I should have listened." He covers his face with his hands, sobbing. Outside, faint at first and then louder, come the sounds of drums. Slow, steady, like a heartbeat. The final hour of footage is the most disturbing. Michael is running again, the camera pointed forward, bouncing violently with each step. His voice is hoarse, whispering prayers between gasps. Suddenly, he stops, swinging the camera behind him. The frame catches them. Dozens of figures, half hidden. In the mist, painted bodies moving slowly but deliberately, closing in from every direction. Their eyes glow faintly in the reflection of his light. The sound of flutes rises, dozens of notes weaving together into something almost melodic, almost mocking. Michael screams and bolts forward, crashing through brush. The footage blurs, branches whipping the lens, until he stumbles into a clearing. At the center stands a massive wooden structure, an idol, crudely carved, its hollow eyes gaping. Bones litter its base, arranged in spirals. The camera zooms in shakily, capturing a skull split open, marrow hollowed out. Michael's voice breaks. Oh God, no." He turns, desperate, but the figures are already in the clearing. They emerge from the mist, one by one. forming a circle around him. Some crouch, some stand tall, their painted faces expressionless. The flutes stop. The drums stop. Silence falls heavier than any sound. Michael lifts the camera one last time, pointing it at his own face. His eyes are wide, lips trembling. If anyone sees this, run. Don't come here. Don't ever come here. The footage ends with a lunge, the frame jerking violently as something slams into him. The camera falls to the ground, tilted sideways. For a brief moment, it captures Michael being dragged across the dirt, his mouth open in a scream that cuts off suddenly. The last thing recorded is a painted face leaning into the lens, black lines across pale skin, eyes reflecting light like an animal's. Then static. When investigators watched that final sequence, the room fell silent. Some refused to discuss what they saw. Officially, the report described the footage as inconclusive, citing possible wildlife attack, disorientation, or hypothermia. But the expressions on those who viewed it told another story. Michael Turner had gone to Ravens Valley to capture something unseen. What he filmed instead was his own death in horrifying detail, and the camcorder, cracked but intact, carried the proof. When news of Michael Turner's disappearance first broke, it was treated like so many other stories of hikers lost in the vast wilderness. A 34-year-old man, known for taking risks and venturing alone, had failed to return. To the public, it seemed tragic but unsurprising. But everything changed once the camera was found. The footage was never released in full. Officially, investigators claimed that doing so would be too distressing for the family. But fragments leaked through whispers from those who had seen it. Deputies who handled the case described sleepless nights, plagued by images of painted faces and hollow eyes. One officer, speaking off-record, admitted, "I wish we'd never watched it. It felt like the valley itself was watching us back through that lens." The official report was sanitized, stripped of the details that made the story so horrifying. It listed environmental hazards, possible animal attack, as the cause of death. It made no mention of the chanting, the flutes, the idol, or the figures captured in the mist. To acknowledge those details would have been to admit that something beyond rational explanation existed in Ravens Valley, and authorities were not willing to open that door. But Michael's sister, Emily, refused to let the truth be buried. She pressed for access to the footage, demanded answers, and gave interviews describing what little she had been told. In one televised statement, her voice shook as she said, "My brother went into that valley to find the truth. He recorded it, and instead of sharing it, they're trying to erase him. I want people to know what he saw. I want them to know he didn't just get lost, something took him." Emily eventually received a heavily edited copy of the footage. In it, Michael appears pale and frightened, whispering into the lens about voices and footsteps outside his tent. Then the video cuts, abruptly, skipping all the sequences that investigators found most disturbing. Emily later claimed that what she saw was enough to convince her that her brother had not died by accident. "You can hear them," she said. "Even if you don't see them, you can hear them. Voices that aren't human. They surrounded him. And the way the video ends, it doesn't sound like an accident. It sounds like capture." Experts who reviewed the case split into camps. Some anthropologists suggested Michael may have stumbled upon the remnants of an isolated group, perhaps descendants of tribes that had long avoided contact, living in secrecy. If true, their rituals might explain the chanting, the flutes, the idols, even the cannibalistic implications of the bones seen in the footage. Others dismissed this as sensationalism, arguing that isolation in the forest, combined with exhaustion and fear, could easily produce hallucinations. "The mind invents predators when it feels hunted," one psychologist explained. Michael's camera recorded his paranoia, not reality. But those who actually saw the uncut footage disagreed. "Hallucinations don't leave footprints," one investigator said flatly. and they don't leave bones arranged in spirals. In the months that followed, the story spread online. Forums dissected the leaked details, debating frame-by-frame descriptions. Some claimed to have seen still images pulled from the footage, though none were ever verified, showing pale figures crouched in the mist, their faces painted with black lines. Others insisted the government had confiscated the original files, hiding evidence of an uncontacted tribe or something far worse. Urban legend grew quickly. Hikers claimed to hear flutes in the valley at night. Locals whispered about lights moving in the fog, about animals found torn apart in ways that didn't match any predator they knew. Ravens Valley, once barely a name on a map, became infamous as the place where the photographer filmed his death. Emily never stopped speaking about her brother. She held exhibitions of his earlier work, displaying his photographs in galleries with a single empty frame labeled "The Last Image." She described him not as reckless, but as someone who believed the world still had mysteries worth chasing. "He wanted to show us what we refused to see," she said, "and in the end, he paid for it." To this day, Michael's body has never been found. The search was officially called off after 6 weeks. The valley declared too dangerous to enter. Hunters still avoid it. Guides refuse to take tourists anywhere near it, and those who live closest say the silence is reason enough to stay away. "The forest is alive," one old man told a reporter, "but in the valley, it's awake, and it doesn't like visitors." Theories continue to circulate. Some say Michael was targeted by a hidden cult, drawn to the valley for rituals outsiders were never meant to see. Others believe he encountered an uncontacted tribe guarding their land through fear and violence. Still, others whisper of something older, spirits that needed witnesses, that let Michael film them only so his terror could be preserved. Whatever the truth, the fact remains. Michael Turner kept filming until the very end. His final act was to point the camera at himself, eyes wide, voice trembling, warning anyone who would listen, "Don't come here. Don't ever come here." Those words still echo online, repeated in threads and documentaries, etched into the legend of Ravens Valley. And for anyone who dares approach its fog-shrouded trees, the warning stands. The valley is not empty. It is waiting. And if you hear the sound of flutes drifting through the silence, remember Michael Turner. Remember the photographer who filmed his own death.